For millennia, humans managed to coexist with nature. Communities across the world recognized their profound interconnectivity to the planet and knew that they relied upon life and the land all around them. Cultures from every corner of the earth once understood the necessity to protect this phenomenal bounty that sustained them. In the modern world, however, many societies have lost this knowledge, and they've forgotten that they are inherently connected to nature. The result is predictably stark, and we are now at a global crossroads. But it is not too late to restore that connection, to reground ourselves in nature, and to protect and nurture that which protects and nurtures us. The Earth is our interconnected home. From the urban hubs of California, to India's ancient rainforests, to the vast plains of Queensland, Australia. Welcome to the 35th Goldman Environmental Prize.
Good evening. Please welcome Susan Gelman, Vice President of the Goldman Environmental Foundation.
Good evening. On behalf of the entire Goldman family, including my brother John Goldman and my niece Jennifer Goldman Wallace, we are thrilled to be with you this evening, celebrating the best of humanity, specifically these wonderful human beings who dedicate their lives to protecting the planet. Since we last met, it's been another year for the history books. War and conflict in Sudan, the Middle East, and Ukraine. Another divisive election waiting in the wings. And of course, ongoing threats to our environment and to global efforts to curb climate change. It consistently amazes me that even with our eyes wide open, understanding the threats to our planet as we do, we still march forward and postpone systemic change to our climate policies and actions. Civilization is clearly its own worst enemy, even while it holds all of the solutions in its collective capacity. So what positive message can we take from another year of bad news? For me, it is humanity's endless reserves of bravery, ingenuity, grit, and determination to do good. There is no shortage of those who are doing the hard work, and tonight we honor 7 individuals who are profound examples of selfless dedication to a cause higher than themselves. 7 leaders who refuse to be complacent amidst adversity, who refuse to be cowed by powerful corporations and governments, who chose to lead by example when no one else was able or willing to step up. This is the 35th anniversary of the beloved prize that my parents founded. 35 years ago, we were just beginning to understand that grassroots leaders and the movements they steward are the answer. Alone, their achievements across the world are impressive. Together, they are a collective force and a growing global movement that is breathtaking and full of hope. That is why we are here tonight, and that is why we do what we do. These leaders are literally the future. Clearly, we cannot solve the world's many problems and divisions here today, but we can come together and help nurture the community of leaders that will continue to protect our planet. Additionally, one of the most significant steps we can take is to vote in November. Because our climate is literally at stake. So to all our future leaders up in the balcony, please register to vote if you're eligible. From San Francisco to Sao Paulo to the wild coast of South Africa, we are a global community and we are powerful. On behalf of our family, thank you for being a part of this growing community and for all that you do to support our planet and its remarkable defenders. Now, I would like to welcome our host for the evening, a phenomenal Bay Area environmental leader and activist, published author, the founder of Outdoor Afro, and a passionate supporter of nature, Rue Mapp.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rue Mapp, and I am thrilled to welcome you to the 2024 Goldman Environmental Prize ceremony, the 35th anniversary of this prize. You can go ahead and clap. The Goldman Environmental Prize was founded in 1989 by Richard and Rhoda Goldman as a way to honor unsung grassroots heroes who have tackled environmental challenges and inspired the rest of us to take action. This is my second year hosting the prize ceremony, and I want to double down on something Susie shared. This is truly a community of all people who care deeply about the future of our little planet. We are a community that is fundamentally inclusive. We come from every nation, every culture, and speak every language. We practice every religion and no religion. We are Black, white, Asian, Latino, Indigenous, and beyond. We are Israeli and Palestinian, Ukrainian and Russian, Ethiopian and Tigrayan. We are liberals, conservatives, progressives, and moderates. And it's not just hyperbole, it's a fact, and it's a necessity. We will not win the campaign to protect the earth if we do not recognize our shared humanity and come together in a big, welcoming tent. So we are interconnected to one another, to our ecosystems here and every corner of the world. We know there is so much going on today outside these walls, but we are here tonight to celebrate these environmental champions and what brings us together as a community. Each of us has a story of what connects us to our home, to the people, animals, mountains, waters, nature, and all life within our particular ecosystem. For me personally, my home is the forests, lakes, rivers, and ranches of Northern California, as much as it is the people and animals that fill them. My home is also my community members, people like me who love nature and are seeking deeper connection to it and to each other. Each of us can find that joy, healing, and love for the planet that grounds us in our home. So tonight, in addition to meeting these 7 remarkable leaders, we will also hear a performance from Jazz Mafia. Jazz Mafia, thank you for being here. Now, I would like to take a moment to recognize a prize winner we lost in 2023 at the age of 89. Wendy Bowman was a farmer in New Wales, Australia, who successfully fought the onslaught of coal mining in her rural community. She won the prize at the age of 83 and remained active until her death. We remember Wendy and celebrate her life and contributions.
Good evening. I'm Sigourney Weaver, and I'm honored to introduce you to the winners of the 2024 Goldman Environmental Prize. Cattle ranching is one of Brazil's premier industries. Its beef exports are the largest in the world, accounting for 20% of the global market. Ranches are spread throughout the Amazon and its lesser-known neighbors, the Cerrado, a tropical savanna, and the Pantanal, the world's largest tropical wetland. All three biomes are home to extraordinary biodiversity and are critical carbon sinks for the planet. But they are under threat from the rapidly expanding beef industry.
65% do desmatamento na região.
About 65% of the deforestation in the Amazon region is caused by cattle ranching. It's our duty in journalism to expose these problems, to hold the authorities and companies accountable.
Marcel Gomes is the executive secretary of Reporter Brazil, a journalistic nonprofit focused on investigating threats to the environment and human rights violations. As cattle ranching became the largest driver of deforestation in Brazil, Marcel began to scrutinize the industry. Using a unique methodology, tracking the supply chain from point of origin to consumer, he hoped to identify abusive practices.
Nós temos informações sobre as
We have information on environmental fines, data on farm locations, and movement of beef products in Brazil. Linking all this information allows us to track the entire product chain.
But tracing the journey from farm to table is complicated, in large part because cattle that graze on illegally deforested ranches are transferred to legal farms, a practice known as cattle laundering. By the time they reach the slaughterhouse, their tracks have been covered.
Lavagem de gado é problema sério que nós temos no Brasil.
Cattle laundering is a serious problem in Brazil. This violates the law here, and it happens routinely.
In 2020, Marcel and Reporter Brazil partnered with the global NGO Mighty Earth to track the path of Brazilian beef into European supermarkets. One of the companies at the center of their investigation was JBS, the world's largest meat producer. Its products are easily found on the shelves of Europe's largest supermarket chains.
Muito importante focar.
It's important to focus on the large corporations because they cause greater social and environmental impacts.
He's our failure!
While Mighty Earth managed the international advocacy campaign, Marcel coordinated the entire product tracing process, working with everyone from truck drivers to ranch hands to field researchers in Brazil, Europe, and the US.
Contratamos pesquisadores em diversos países.
We hired people who went to the supermarkets to scan the barcodes. With this information, it was possible to identify the packing plants that each meat product had come from. Then we examined satellite images of the cattle ranches to identify illegal deforestation.
Putting all this data together, Marcel accomplished something that JBS claimed was impossible. He and his team had tracked the beef from the supermarkets all the way back to the farms where the cattle were raised. In 2021, Reporter Brazil published the results of Marcel's exhaustive investigation. The data was irrefutable, proving that JBS meat products were directly linked to deforestation.
E com a pressão dos consumidores no exterior.
With pressure from consumers, several large supermarket chains decided to suspend the sale of Brazilian meat because of its environmental and social costs.
The boycott, representing a loss of billions of dollars in annual sales for JBS, sent a powerful message to meat producers around the world.
Nós sabemos que estamos enfrentando
We know that we're tackling a very powerful industry in Brazil and globally.
que há muitos desafios ainda.
And while there are still many challenges to overcome, we also have many victories.
Ultimately, Marceo's goal is to ensure a sustainable food supply that is good for people and the planet.
É fundamental a criação de sistema.
We must create a mandatory public system to track the cattle. It's essential if we're going to stop the beef industry from being a major cause of climate change.
For outstanding environmental achievement for South and Central America, the 2024 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Marcel Gomes, Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Well, thank you very much for welcoming tonight here in San Francisco. I feel like I'm here on this stage representing the many journalists, whether here in the US, in Brazil, or around the world, who have been diligently covering the environmental and climate crisis we are experiencing nowadays. Journalism faces many difficulties worldwide, as you know. Digital technologies and social networks have disrupted the media financial model and also the way people consume news. Many media outlets that were once important have entered into crisis, gone bankrupt, or become irrelevant. But the good news is that good journalism endures. And it's not just about producing news, keeping society informed, and protecting us from fake news. Journalism and research produce the information that is the basis of international campaigns and legal actions against major corporations. The investigations by Reporter Brazil have served as the basis for actions against companies such as JBS, McDonald's, Starbucks, Nestlé, and BNP Paribas. I also can say that companies too can benefit from allegations against them, as they can use the data to improve their internal process and sustainability policies. Let us now look at the case of Brazil. The latest report from the US Department of Agriculture indicates that by 2033, Brazil will consolidate its position as the world's largest exporter of soybean, corn, beef, chicken, coffee, orange juice, and sugar. Not to mention the exports from the mining supply chain. These are sectors that will receive billions of dollars in investments, but continue to generate deforestation in the Amazon, pollution of water resources, and human rights violations. To address this, it's not enough to simply improve national and international legal frameworks. Supply chains need to be transparent, and companies need to disclose their suppliers and customers. Traceability, monitoring, due diligence, and transparency are values that need to be adopted by the world's largest companies. The investigative work we do on all those systems increases transparency and pressures companies to improve their corporate policies. At the same time, I see that people in general want to know more about the origin of the products they consume. That's an opportunity. If Repórter Brasil, a relatively small NGO, can track and identify the origin of products that cross the road, large companies can do it too. And you can bet that we will continue to pressure companies to do so. But I don't want to leave this stage without paying tribute. In 2022, English journalist Dom Phillips and Brazilian anthropologist Bruno Pereira were murdered in the remote Vale do Javari in the Brazilian Amazon while investigating invasions of indigenous territories in the region. Dom was a colleague who worked with us on some investigations. A few months ago, Repórter Brasil released a film documentary telling the story of the search for Dom and Bruno as a way to honor them. So, I also want to dedicate this award to Dom, to Bruno, and to the traditional communities that continue to resist in the Brazilian forest. Please learn more about our investigations and support us by visiting Repórter Brasil website. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Australia is one of the largest producers of coal globally and a major contributor to climate change. So when the industry began pushing to open up mining operations in Queensland's Galilee Basin, which contains the world's largest coal reserves, it seemed nothing could stop it.
We have said no, we will continue to say no, and we're going to fight this to the end.
Despite widespread opposition, the Adani Carmichael mine was approved and constructed, but the 8-year fight was a catalyst for the emerging leadership of Murrawah Maroochy Johnson, the youngest member of the Wangan and Jungalingu Family Council, an organization supporting First Nations rights in Queensland.
What I learned was that there's been an intentional alienation of First Nations people from our human rights, from our land rights. Aboriginal law and environmental law are one and the same. You can't separate them. It comes from thousands of years of observation of country and really understanding how all of the forces of nature relate to each other.
In 2019, a second mega coal mine was proposed. Waratah Coal, a company owned by billionaire Clive Palmer, would extract 40 million tons of coal annually from a nature refuge in the Galilee Basin.
When it comes to Waratah, it's all of the plants, all of the animals, and it's Indigenous and First Nations worldviews and principles that are at threat directly, but also indirectly.
With her team at Youth Verdict, an NGO dedicated to climate justice, Murrawah launched an awareness campaign. She also partnered with the Environmental Defender's Office to file a novel lawsuit using the recent enactment of the Queensland Human Rights Act, under which Indigenous cultural rights are connected to traditional ownership of territories.
Because this isn't just about protecting country and standing up for country. It's about the people who have the birthright to do it.
Through her lawyers, Murrawah argued that the Waratah mine, by contributing to climate change, would impact First Nations people across Queensland. But Murrawah needed a way to prove this.
The reality of First Nations life being impacted by climate change and environmental destruction isn't going to come through, on just a written statement. The decision makers need to go and see climate change and the reality of it in a way that's culturally appropriate for us.
With only pro bono legal support and minimal funding, Murrawah and her team coordinated for the Land Court to attend on-country hearings with First Nations witnesses across northern Queensland. Witnesses gave compelling testimony about how climate change destroys ecological systems and the traditional cultures that depend on them.
We were able to shine a light on the reality of their experience of climate change. The court doing on-country evidence really, just took it to another place, another level.
In November 2022, the Land Court made a historic recommendation that Waratah's mining lease be refused, based on its impact to the local environment and climate, as well as the unjustifiable limitations placed on the human and cultural rights of First Nations peoples. With this victory, Murrawah and her team prevented the release of 1.5 billion tons of carbon and set a powerful precedent for using human rights law to challenge coal development in Australia.
There's this collective gasp in the courtroom, like, did I hear what I just thought that I just heard? Sorry, anything you want to We've had our freedom fighters from day one. They did all the hard work maintaining a First Nations cultural identity. I love my culture and I love my people. I think that there's a lot to be learned from our ways of being. Our job is to speak for the land because it can't speak for itself.
For outstanding environmental achievement for islands and island nations, the 2024 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Murrawah Maroochy Johnson, Galilee Basin, Australia.
Unfortunately, Murrawah is not able to join us in person today. However, she has sent us a message from her home in Queensland.
Bonamoli, Naya Murrawah Wirdi Yidi Kabakai. My name is Murrawah and I'm a Wirdi person of the native B, the Burruba Nation of Central Queensland. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person to join you all this evening. As a young First Nations person, a part of a long line of resistance fighters to the genocide and colonisation in Australia, I feel that my future has never been more uncertain. Climate change not only limits our ability to maintain, grow, and pass down our cultural knowledge, it also means that a safe and secure future becomes almost impossible to imagine for my generation and all future generations. This is why I do the work that I do, combating mega coal mines proposed throughout central Queensland by using human rights charters with a focus on Indigenous cultural knowledge and First Nations people as experts of the environment. While we stopped the Waratah coal mine on human rights, environmental and climate change grounds, this win is really a shining example of true collaboration at all levels and what we are capable of accomplishing when led by the knowledge and ways of First Nations people of Australia. I ask you all to be open and willing to be led by the ancient knowledge and teachings of First Nations peoples and cultures, which are needed to lead solutions to the most modern problems of today, now more than ever before. I also ask you to learn more about the work of Youth Verdict and what we do. Thank you, Goldman Environmental Foundation.
Please join me in congratulating Murrawah.
The indigenous people of Pondoland on the wild coast of South Africa have occupied this abundant land for centuries. Today, Pondo families practice the same traditional farming and fishing techniques as their ancestors. They have lived sustainably in the region for many generations. But extractive corporations have moved in to exploit the natural resources there, jeopardizing local ecosystems and ways of life.
When we first heard Shell has been given permit to explore for oil and gas, we were very surprised, but we were also very angry. How can that be? That's such a big thing which is going to have a direct bearing and an impact on our livelihoods, an impact on our ocean, that the government can make such a decision without talking to us.
The Constitution of South Africa is stated loud and clear that any development, communities must be consulted. There was no consultation, there was nothing. And then I just realized that our government does not count us.
Sinegugu, Zukulu, and Nonhle Mbuthuma had worked together for years to defeat a proposed titanium mine in their Pondo community of Amadiba, along the wild coast. In 2021, they learned that the government had granted permits for Shell to prospect for oil and gas in the ocean off the wild coast. The company planned to launch a seismic survey to map for reserves, blasting the seafloor with deafening sonic air guns that can be heard for miles.
There are families in our community whose source of income is solely dependent on the natural resources they collect from the ocean. The fish, the crayfish, the mussels, the oysters.
In addition to threatening the livelihoods of Pondo communities, the seismic surveys would have a devastating impact on the 360,000-acre marine protected area that was established to protect migratory whales and endemic fish populations that flourish there. According to the Pondo people's traditional beliefs, their ancestors live in the sea. They have a responsibility to safeguard these places where healers and elders communicate with forebears.
For us, it's not just an ocean, it's a sacred place. We walk along the beach and then we pray. We connect with our ancestors that, please, ancestors, come and help us.
Nonhle and Sinegugu organized a meeting with the Pondo community to raise awareness about the threat of seismic testing.
Where there is money involved, we are people who are never at peace. We knew that our rights are being threatened. We knew we had to mobilize. We identified a date of protest and released statements to let the people know what is at stake. We posted on social media telling coastal communities to rise up and to go to the beach and protest in order to show our anger.
Through this powerful mix of forces, the Pondo community fought to protect its rights and the environment in both the court of public opinion and the judicial system. In May of 2022, the High Court of South Africa held hearings to determine the validity of Shell's exploration permit.
People were telling me that you cannot defeat Shell. But when we go to the court, at this stage, we still have a hope. Maybe it's because we connect with our ancestors.
9 months after their struggle began, the High Court found that Shell's consultations with Pondo leaders were inadequate, and that the government had failed to consider the impact on the environment, including protected species, as well as the economic and cultural rights of Pondo people. The court ruled that the permit had been granted unlawfully and rescinded it.
We couldn't believe it. We were overwhelmed with joy.
When you have a hope, you believe on what you're doing, there's nothing can defeat you.
It is important to have the younger foot soldiers who understand what we are doing so that we know that even when we pass on, this land is left on good hands.
For outstanding environmental achievement for Africa, The 2024 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Nonhle, Mbuthuma, and Sinegugu, Zukulu, Wild Coast, South Africa.
Let me first say a warm thank you to the Goldman Environmental Foundation for this prize and the recognition of activists' work in service of our indigenous community. I'm standing here today as a member of our community organization, the Amadeba Crisis Committee. In 20 years, we have come a long way in defending our land, our livelihood, and our environment. 2 years ago, we were marching against Shell Petroleum and their blasting with air guns in the ocean for oil and gas. At the time, someone said that the indigenous communities of the world are the final line in the defense of Mother Earth. But we were not alone. People were also marching in support of our effort in all 9 provinces of South Africa. Without this solidarity and support to the coastal communities on the Wild Coast in Eastern Cape, it will be a very lonely battle, which at the end of the day is a battle against the death of our planet and the human species. Indeed, organizations and communities are fighting capitalist corporations in Africa and all over the world. Corporations that are busy destroying Mother Earth for short-term gain. They continue as before, but we and millions around the world know that business as usual cannot continue. Previously, it was called climate change. Now it is called climate crisis or climate catastrophe. In my country, people are dying and being displaced by floods. The banks must stop financing extractivism and fossil fuel projects. All investment must now go to renewable energy projects. Development really must be determined by our children's future, not by corporate profit. But it will not change until the right to say no to destructive development by affected communities is recognized by government and corporations. The whole concept of economic growth must change. To follow and support our work, please visit our profile page on the Goldman Prize website and learn more. I thank you.
To the Goldman Foundation, Goldman staff, fellow recipients, friends, and guests present here, I greet you all. I'm humbled by this recognition of my little efforts in protecting the planet, The planet is reaching a tipping point at many levels. Indigenous peoples' territories are at risk of flooding, droughts, fires, loss of biodiversity, which all make life impossible. The planet is burning. Why do we allow multinational corporations to continue to explore for oil and gas? Science tells us the fossil fuel era is over. In indigenous territories, life is increasingly becoming impossible. Rains come during the wrong season, destroying food and livestock, and diseases are increasing due to the warming. Why is the global north still allowing oil and gas companies to explore for more oil and gas in the south? Why allow corporations to continue to pursue profit at the expense of the planet and vulnerable people? As indigenous people, we are dependent on healthy ecosystems for our livelihoods. Let us all strive to keep the planet healthy for the benefit of nature and people. It is for all of us to play an active role in protecting the planet. Please help our efforts in any way you can. Let's stop fossil fuels now. Thank you for being with me.
Wow. I am consistently floored by these stories. It's all right. Each one is monumental, and collectively, they are life-changing. I also want to acknowledge that we have some past prize winners here in the audience with us tonight. Can you please stand? Let's give them a round of applause. All right, and now, please welcome Jazz Mafia.
I wouldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, and I know And everything's gonna be all right. Here we go.
Let's see you walk a little bit. Some people never change their mind.
Everything's gonna be all right.
Either way, we're gonna be just fine.
Everything's gonna be all right.
Even when you're trying to bring me down.
Everything's gonna be all right.
I'm still here, let me adjust my ground.
Everything's gonna be all right.
All together now.
Put your hands together. You can make it if you try.
Ain't never been nothing. You wanna be something. You gotta put more in the toe.
You can make it if you try.
You can make it if you try.
All right, Jazz Mafia. That was amazing. Right now, I would like to just take just a moment to give a huge shout out to all of our wonderful nominating partners, without whom we could not do the work we do each year. So check them out on our website. These are fantastic environmental organizations that are on the front lines of environmental defense. Thank you. Also, we are joined by 500 future leaders, young people from around the Bay Area, learning about environmental issues. I see y'all through schools. Woo! Welcome. And they're learning about environmental issues through schools and our nonprofit partners. So let's give another round of applause to the next generation of environmental leaders here tonight. All right, we'll be back after we celebrate more winners.
Hasdeo Aranya is one of India's most extensive unfragmented forests. Spread across 650 square miles, the forest contains critical wildlife corridors for endangered Asian elephants and tigers, and its rivers provide irrigation to hundreds of thousands of acres of nearby farmland. Hasdeo is known as the lungs of Chhattisgarh, a region with extreme high levels of industrial air pollution. Alok Shukla grew up here. With degrees in botany, zoology, and political science, he was well aware of the critical role natural resources play in the lives of communities and wildlife populations in Chhattisgarh. Alok realized that rampant coal development threatened the Hasdeo forest and its tribal people.
Tribal communities have protected these forests and farmlands for generations. Now, this critical source of their livelihood and cultural heritage was being taken away from them by large-scale corporate mining projects. The farmers and the tribal people are fighting and protesting, but their voices are not being heard.
In 2020, although the government had previously declared the Hasdeo forest a no-go zone for coal development, the administration invoked emergency provisions to move 21 coal mines forward. Alok advised villagers to advocate for the designation of almost 1 million acres of the forest as the Lemru Elephant Reserve, which would prohibit 3 of the mines from being built.
The first challenge was to bring the entire community together. Although the community had decided that they had to save the forest, how they would save it and win this fight was unclear.
Alok used media outreach to ensure that locals were aware of the safeguards guaranteed by India's constitution to protect tribal communities' rights. The Hasdeo campaign inspired creative actions across the country, including bike rallies, sit-ins, tree-hugging campaigns, and couples using Save Hasdeo in their wedding invitations.
We drew international media attention and started a political dialogue that supported a peaceful movement to help amplify the voice of the people.
Alok's campaign received tremendous support from across the country's castes and political parties, a striking accomplishment given the entrenched divides that organize life in Indian society.
The Hasdeo movement began to gather momentum. As soon as the deforestation started to make way for mining, many people across the country started opposing it.
In 2021, Alok and community members began a 10-day, 160-mile protest march on Raipur, the state capital, to call attention to their proposal.
When we started the march, we were worried whether the government would take steps to save Hasdeo. But when we were halfway to Raipur, the government announced its decision to establish the Lemru Elephant Reserve. So our fear turned into happiness.
Within days of reaching the capital, an additional 14 coal mines were canceled by the government. Thanks to Alok's commitment and the efforts of the community, over 400,000 acres of Hasdeo forests were protected, along with all of the elephant and tiger corridors, rare plant and animal species, critical water catchments, and the cultural heritage and practices of the tribal people.
We had no expectations, but the Legislative Assembly voted unanimously that all of the coal mines of Hasdeo should be cancelled and the forest should be saved. That was a very important and happy moment for all of us.
For outstanding environmental achievement for Asia, the 2024 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Alok Shukla, Raipur, India.
आप सभी को जोहार। पूरी दुनिया के सम्मानित और लोकप्रिय इस अवार्ड की परंपरा में हमें भी शामिल करने के लिए गोल्डमैन परिवार का हृदय से आभार। यह सम्मान मेरा नहीं बल्कि मध्य भारत के लंग्स कहे जाने वाले समृद्ध हसदेव जंगल को बचाने के लिए पिछले 12 वर्षों से संघर्षरत आदिवासियों और उस आंदोलन से जुड़े प्रत्येक नागरिक का है। मुझे याद है वह दिन जब मैं पहली बार हसदेव गया था। हमने देखा कि वहाँ के लोग निराश और भविष्य की चिंता से जूझ रहे थे। उन्हें यह तो पता था कि उनके साथ अन्याय होने जा रहा है, लेकिन उससे बचने का कोई रास्ता दिख नहीं रहा था। जब हमने जनता को संगठित करना शुरू किया तो रास्ता खुद ब खुद बनता गया। भारतवर्ष में प्रकृति को बचाने और अन्याय के खिलाफ संघर्ष की एक समृद्ध विरासत है। बिरसा मुंडा से लेकर जयपाल सिंह मुंडा तक, तिलका मांझी से लेकर टांटिया भील तक, गुंडाधुल से लेकर बील नारायण सिंह तक, भारत के राष्ट्रपिता महात्मा गांधी, पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू और बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर के अहिंसात्मक संघर्ष के विरासत ने हमें ताकत दी है। हमें गर्व है हसदेव के आदिवासियों पर, विशेष रूप से महिलाओं पर, जिन्होंने संघर्ष में आई सभी चुनौतियों का डटकर सामना किया। समुदाय के संघर्ष से ही लेमलू हाथी रिजर्व बना और हसदेव के 4,45,000 एकड़ जंगल आज भी बचे हुए हैं। हसदेव के इस आंदोलन ने दुनिया भर में एक उम्मीद भी जगाई है कि एक शोषित वंचित वर्ग केवल साफ नियत और लोकतांत्रिक तरीकों से दुनिया की सबसे ताकतवर कॉरपोरेट का लूट और हिंसा की मजबूती से मुकाबला कर सकता है। वह विकास के नाम पर हो रहे विनाश को चुनौती दे सकता है। हालांकि हसदेव के लिए लगातार लड़ रहे लोग यह जानते हैं कि हसदेव पर संकट के काले बादल अभी छटे नहीं हैं। कुछ हिस्से पर अभी भी जंगल की कटाई और विस्थापन की कोशिशें हैं, जिसे बचाने के लिए हमारा संघर्ष जारी है। निश्चित रूप से इस सम्मान से हसदेव के बचाने के आंदोलन को हमें ताकत मिलेगी। इस मंच से आप सभी से अपील है, जलवायु परिवर्तन के मौजूदा संकट में प्राकृतिक संसाधनों और उन पर निर्भर मानव संस्कृति को बचाने के लिए आज गांव या शहर, वर्ग, भाषा एवं देश की सीमाओं से परे दुनिया के सभी पर्यावरण के प्रति संवेदनशील नागरिक, जन संगठन और सरकारों को एकजुट होना होगा। यदि हम चाहते हैं कि हमारी दुनिया हरी भरी, सुंदर और सभी जीवों के जीने लायक बनी रहे, तो हमें विकास की अपनी परिभाषाओं को सिरे से बदलना होगा और विकास के नए मॉडल की संरचना करनी होगी। आप सभी से सेव हसदेव की मुहिम से जुड़ने की अपील के साथ एक बार पुनः गोल्डमैन परिवार का हृदय से आभार, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, शुक्रिया।
Just east of Los Angeles, Southern California's Inland Empire has long suffered from the nation's most toxic air. California is also the only U.S. state that can create its own regulations for vehicle emissions. But policies have not kept pace with the rapid expansion of the logistics industry, which involves the transportation of consumer goods. In the U.S., a staggering 40% of all shipped goods move through the Inland Empire.
Because of the 1 billion square feet of warehousing, we have about 500,000 diesel trucks on our roads every single day. And then we've got 2 of the largest Class 1 railroads.
We're gonna air monitor today.
Oh, yeah, mine's 20 already.
Witnessing the impacts on her community, 29-year-old Andrea Vidaurre began fighting for change 8 years ago.
This is an example of what environmental racism looks like, where all these homes have been destroyed so that a warehouse can come in.
I think I got involved because I was angry. Right now, the logistics industry almost 100% runs on diesel that causes cancer clusters in communities. It causes asthma, industrial allergies, heart issues, and lung issues.
This is almost a year's worth of inhalers for my 7-year-old and my 4-year-old.
In 2017, Andrea teamed up with environmental justice advocates to mobilize allies demanding emissions reductions. Andrea conducted site visits for legislators and members of the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. She helped with community workshops and public comments and analyzed draft proposals. In response, CARB passed a rule in 2020 that called for sales of zero-emissions trucks, but the timeline was weak and the mandate tenuous.
I was a big hater. I was like, this does not go far enough. We don't have any more time to waste based on how bad the situation is out here.
In 2020, Andrea co-founded the People's Collective for Environmental Justice to help push for a complete and timely phase-out of diesel emissions from both the trucking and rail freight sectors. It was a bold call to action that was met with resistance from the powerful logistics industry and local government.
They would come to meetings with like, this is gonna destroy the industry, you guys are trying to kill jobs, but the intent was never to kill the industry. It was just about how do you transition the industry and hold them accountable to the air pollution that they've been causing for so long.
Andrea pushed forward, spending the next 2 years advocating for and drafting strict zero-emissions proposals that were ultimately brought to CARB in 2022. It was a pivotal moment, so Andrea worked with a statewide coalition to organize members of over 70 organizations to convene in Sacramento. At the hearing, Andrea organized and translated testimony and spoke on behalf of the statewide coalition.
It was people throughout the state, it was labor groups, it was environmental groups all coming together to tell CARB that like, not only do we need this rule passed, but we need the strongest form of this rule passed.
Thanks to overwhelming support, Andrea and her coalition succeeded. In April 2023, CARB adopted the Advanced Clean Fleets Rule and the In-Use Locomotive Rule. Some of California's most ambitious emissions reductions ever, the rules mandate 100% zero-emission heavy-duty truck sales in California by 2036, and increasing adoption of zero-emission locomotives starting in 2030. The impact of these rules will expand significantly as additional states adopt them.
This is for all of California, this is for climate change, but this is also for communities that have been disproportionately impacted. So that is my hope, that we are living in a safer place so that nobody gets their life cut short because of where they live or what zip code they're in.
For outstanding environmental achievement for North America, the 2024 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Andrea Vidaurre, Inland Empire, California.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Goldman family, the staff, and all the supporters for this award. I'm privileged and honored to accept it, and I want to dedicate it to every single community member who is here now or has passed away, fighting for the simple right to breathe clean air and live freely in their communities. This award is as much yours as it is mine. Winning these landmark policies would not have been possible without the tireless work and strong foundation that was built way before my time by the groups that make up the Impact Project and the Moving Forward Network, which were calling for a transformation of our transportation system long before the technology even existed and long before any corporation, government, or funder agreed to it. I'd like to also thank my family, my chosen family, and my partner for their endless support, inspiration, and grounding. And finally, I'd like to give all my appreciation and admiration to the team at the People's Collective for Environmental Justice, which fights from its heart every day to see a different reality in our communities. I have had the privilege of growing up and organizing in the ancestral homelands of the Serrano, Gabrielino, and Cahuilla, also known as the Inland Empire. What ends up in your stores and online shopping carts has to come through neighborhoods like mine first. And before it comes to my community, it passes through many others worldwide, completely powered by fossil fuels. It is a network of trucks, trains, freeways, ships, and more that was forced upon us. This goods movement system is driven by corporate profits, overconsumption, and capitalism that hides, dehumanizes, and devalues the land and labor it took. All while extracting and exploiting our sacred Mother Earth along the way. It is what we call the slow violence of the global supply chain. We cannot accept that. To fight the climate crisis and find balance and relation with our natural world and each other, we must reimagine what this system of movement, our system of movement of goods. And it has to come from all of us. The transformation of the systems that are driving climate change will never originate from those that profit from it. It will happen through our communities standing shoulder to shoulder in solidarity, fighting for our collective vision of a better world together. I am proud to have helped win policies that will transition the truck and train industry. It will undoubtedly clean up the air pollution that harms so many in my community. Still, I know that is not enough. We must continue the fight for accountability, regulations, and oversight of the freight system so that it operates in a way that is safer for every worker and every community. Join us in challenging this vast web of invisible and deadly infrastructure that drives excessive consumption. We can transform this system together. From the Inland Empire to the indigenous and frontline communities challenging lithium and mining extraction domestically and abroad, the solutions lie not only in new technology, but also in a new vision of a goods movement system with less extraction, less consumption, and more community. Lastly, we fight for our communities because we love our communities. And not until all our communities are liberated from pollution, colonialism, genocide, and violence are we all free. To the people of Palestine, our fight against climate change and for environmental justice is inextricably linked to your liberation. Thank you.
The Mar Menor, or Little Sea, is Europe's largest saltwater lagoon. Its turquoise waters and exquisite flora and fauna once made it an ecological treasure along Spain's Mediterranean coast. Its natural beauty also made it a hotspot for vacationers and developers. In the surrounding countryside, industrial agriculture rapidly replaced traditional farming, with production largely for export.
El modelo de desarrollo de esta región desde los años 50.
The development model of this region since the 1950s is to see the Mar Menor as a dump and as a source of profit.
In 2019, storm runoff laden with chemical fertilizers flooded the lagoon, triggering an algae bloom that consumed the oxygen in the water. Fish by the millions died from suffocation.
Fue el grito de muerte.
It was this death cry of the Mar Menor that prompted me to act.
Teresa Vicente is a law professor at the University of Murcia. Environmental law is her expertise and her passion.
Since 1986, I have been fighting for the paradigm of ecological justice. Human rights don't make sense to me without the rights of nature.
Teresa began to shape a plan to secure those rights for the Mar Menor. If she succeeded, the lagoon would be granted the same legal rights and protections as people, enforceable in a court of law. Her novel approach hinged on a constitutional provision that lets citizens propose a law directly to Parliament. She began sharing her plan with the community. In the fall of 2020, she submitted the first draft of her bill to Parliament. But there was a problem. The process required that she collect 500,000 signatures.
Todo sucede durante el COVID.
Everything happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. Sometimes we had to run because the police wouldn't let us stay. But we never stopped collecting signatures.
Teresa worked tirelessly to spread the word, harnessing the support of citizen volunteers and 185 environmental, cultural, and tourist organizations across Spain.
Cuando empezamos este movimiento nos trataban de locas.
When we started this movement, people thought we were crazy. But little by little, people began to join us.
By August of 2021, with just 2 months before the deadline, Teresa still needed 200,000 signatures. Then the Mar Menor cried out again.
Fish, mollusks, and all the life in the lagoon jumped out and died at our feet. They were saying to us, "You didn't even leave us oxygen to breathe."
The scale of the disaster sparked major protests, with 70,000 people joining hands in a collective hug around the lagoon.
We said, "We are all the Mar Menor." And that hug was accompanied by signatures. I remember we were driving around Madrid shouting out the window of the car, "We got 640,000 signatures!"
In 2022, in a landmark victory, Parliament overwhelmingly approved the bill, which soon became law. In a first for Europe, the legal rights of personhood will now protect the Mar Menor from harmful human activities and guarantee remediation of environmental damage.
The central government has a plan for the recovery of the Mar Menor. There is still intensive agriculture and construction going on. But the fact that Mar Menor is now going to defend its rights through the voices of citizens changes everything.
Teresa's historic campaign to save the Mar Menor sets an important precedent for environmental protection and the rights of nature throughout the world.
It is a vision of hope for all life on Earth, and I think the Mar Menor is very proud of us.
For outstanding environmental achievement for Europe, the 2024 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Teresa Vicente, Murcia, Spain.
Gracias. Quiero expresar mi emoción por ser la ganadora del premio Goldman 2024 para Europa y dirigir mi agradecimiento a la familia Goldman, al personal de la Fundación y al jurado que me eligió. También a todas aquellas personas que en el mundo luchan por los derechos de la naturaleza. Y en especial a la ciudadanía española por haber obtenido el gran logro de reconocer al Mar Menor como el primer ecosistema en Europa titular de derechos propios. Reconocer que la naturaleza tiene derechos significa repensar nuestra comprensión del mundo basada en el dominio del ser humano sobre la naturaleza y adaptar nuestro modelo de desarrollo a las exigencias y las necesidades de los ecosistemas como entidades vivas y en peligro. Significa enfrentar la crisis ecológica desde la nueva comprensión que aporta la ciencia de la ecología y que converge con la sabiduría ancestral de los pueblos indígenas. Reconocer que las entidades naturales, como el caso del Mar Menor y su cuenca en España, son sujetos de derechos, significa afirmar que la tierra tiene dignidad. que los seres humanos formamos parte de la biosfera y que somos responsables de la habitabilidad de nuestro planeta. El futuro no está determinado, es incierto y variable, y por tanto está abierto a un nuevo modelo de desarrollo capaz de transformar el sistema actual. La premisa para una transformación ecológica es que tenemos que pensar y actuar de forma diferente, porque hemos adquirido un nuevo poder sobre la naturaleza que nos exige nuevas responsabilidades. Este es nuestro momento y tenemos que hacerlo ahora, llenos de información y conocimiento y con la llamada a la acción de convertir la utopía en una nueva experiencia. Yo les apremio a comer frutas y verduras de temporada y de un suelo vivo, a pensar en la naturaleza como miembros de la comunidad de la Tierra y a recordar que todos formamos parte de un ecosistema más amplio. Muchas gracias.
Nonhle, Sinegugu, Marcel, Murrawah, Alok, Teresa, and Andrea have each changed the world. And because they are so connected to their own environments and ecosystems, they stepped up. And all of us can step up in our own way. So please check out goldmanprize.org or scan the QR code on the back of your program and see how you can support each of these phenomenal leaders in their work. As tradition, you are all warmly invited to a reception across the street at City Hall in a few minutes. There'll be no prize winner receiving lines, but there'll be plenty to eat, drink, and many new and old friends to connect with. So please come celebrate with us. And if you haven't already, please be sure to get a wristband from the ushers on the way out of the theater lobby, and this will provide you access to the reception. Thank you to our prize recipients for their dedication, and to you in the audience for being a part of the solution. I'd now like to invite all the prize winners back to the stage together so we can recognize their achievements one more time. Good night. Good night, and see you all next year.